I got the horses in the back, horse stock is attached. Head is matted black, got the bushes black.
Good evening, guys. It is crack of 11:55 at night, almost morning, and I just became aware of the improvements given to the RPCS3 emulator. Apparently, the team has figured out multi-sampling anti-aliasing. It's a support that affects in every game. It can be hard to notice a difference while using it with the resolution scaling in games that don't require multi-sampling anti-aliasing, also known as MSAA, to properly render certain graphical elements in the games. It also increases the loadout significantly upon your graphics card, your GPU, while enabling it on the game. MSAA factoring. Using resolution scaling at the same time can be careful not to bottleneck yourself, and you will likely find that games don't require MSAA to improve graphics. Turning it off and using resolution scaling instead is a better choice. The new nightly build came out yesterday. The new alpha build, version 0.06-8445, was released just last night as of this recording. I'm going to show you how to get it on your computer for all those who want to play it on their PlayStation 3 games. I will say that when it comes to this generation of games, you should more than likely go with this emulator for your PC, because the Xbox 360 emulator is not getting very well supported, if you ask me. Let me play some music. Not getting very well supported. It's starting to pick back up. This emulator alone has been first developed in 2011, May of 2011. So this is an 8-year-old emulator just now coming into some of its higher fruition. In some games, there was a very long list of games that did play, some didn't. Some of the harder games to play on it didn't even boot up. But now with this MSAA, we got certain games like Metal Gear Solid 4 to actually boot up and go into its title screen. Even though it's choppy, it's still choppy. That game never even would fire up. It just freeze. So you go to the link in the description, which I'll have, and you download for whatever system you have, Linux or Windows. There's not an Apple. I don't even think an Apple would be powerful enough right now to play this unless you spend like $4,000 or $5,000 on your Apple. We're going to simply download for our Windows. It's a zip file. You're also going to need some sort of software to unzip it. And just going to take it, cut it, and I'm going to put it into my games drive, which I already have a folder named up here for PS3. And paste it in there. I'm going to use 7-zip to extract it here. And boom. Now I already have some files from my previous builds that I'm going to transfer into here, like my Devi H hard drive device 1. I'm going to place it into the PlayStation 3 folder. The hard drive device 0. Place it into the PlayStation 3. I'm going to, as a matter of fact, I want to check this. I want to make sure they're exactly the same. Yes, these are all my dumps, my threads and stuff. I want to make sure that they're exactly the same whenever I check this out. See, look, this one has a lot more. So I want to take what I have inside this this game file, cut it so I don't have to redump them if I go to do it. I'm gonna put it in here as well. Let me check. Do a game. See, look, there's a lot more in here. I may just want to keep that, add that to it. cache still has all my games. Game folder is done, so I guess it's good just the way it is. I'm going to take the firmware, which you need to have the firmware, which you can look this up. PlayStation 3 firmware 4.84. Place it in here as well, along with my ISOs, your game rips. And then we're going to fire up. Let's close this out. Fire this music out. First I want to create a shortcut that I want to send to the desktop. That over there. And then we'll fire it up. Yes, it's the same quick start guide as before. Some of the games are already highlighting up now when I'm checking on my game pads. And I don't want to go with a keyboard. I want to go with the next input because I'll be using an Xbox controller. An Xbox controller. You can use DualShock 3 or 4 in here if you like. And make sure my freaking controller is on. Sometimes that wire don't work too well. And there we go. And we got dead zones with our controllers. Alright, so nothing happens inside these circles if your analogs are a little bit off. It looks like both eyes are looking to the right, but everything else works already off the back, so you don't have to do nothing. So you just save. Let's fire up a game. Assassin's Creed has in-game capability. Nothing happened. Let's try Metal Gear Solid. Boot was successful. Where is it booting? Now I may have to go through all these all over again. In order to do that, I'm going to snap this to the right.
On social media made a phone
click here. Click on that my ISOs, and now that's fine. Let's was Metal Gear Solid 4, right?
No, and maybe one like this here.
Simply drag and drop it and click yes. It'll start to install the package. That one was only 437 kilobytes. The other one is successful. Don't show this to me again. The other one is 227 million kilobytes. So that's like saying 27 gigs. And we're gonna cut and jump to the end here. I'm gonna go ahead and turn my camera off so we can see the game when it comes up. Alright, kind of got ahead of myself there. Totally forgot about this. First things first is we want to go into our file, right? We want to install a firmware. We want to find our firmware and install that. That's not going to take very long. And done. Okay. Now it's going to start compiling the PPU models, which is the shaders basically. You see all the alerts are going off down here. Don't worry about that. It's not that big of a deal. Just go ahead and let it run. It doesn't take long for this to add. There's only 144 models. Once it gets complete, the games are going to become compatible, so to speak. Again, the firmware is easy to find. You can go to Sony's actual site and look up the latest PlayStation 3 firmware. You don't need exactly the latest. You can grab any of them, they'll work just fine. There, and we're good. We should be able to fire up Metal Gear Solid now. You know, boot was successful in the green. We just gotta find out where it went. Supposed to get an intro right now. You can check out our configurations now. This is our CPU. We can go with what's fastest, what's precise. Many settings here. I don't choose to mess with these so much. CPU, we can go with OpenGL. Vulkan is supported here. with our max resolution settings. It's recommended at 1280 by 720, which is 720p, or we can go to the Blu-ray. We feel like going to Blu-ray, but you really need a beefy computer for all that. Our aspect ratio, frame limit, if we want to cut the frame limits off at a certain height, so to speak. Audio, I'd leave this alone. Your IO, if you ever want to add on a mouse. Camera, it works like you're actually using the PlayStation's camera and everything. Your system, keep this as the same unless you're in a different country or so. So on and so forth. Network is disconnected, but you can even take it as far as obtaining an IP in your actual emulator. Exit RPCS3 when the process finishes. Start game in full screen mode. That's always good. I like to change that. I like to do it on my own if I need to. Your GUI interface. You can apply any of these. Anyways, right now we're good. Now we need to get a game to fire up. That's what we need. So I'm gonna jump to a game that I know works indefinitely. All right. As you can see, the system's running in the background, and now the game is actually playing. I can enlarge it by double-clicking on the screen itself. Shut the music off so that you can hear the game. Capcom presents a Cyber Connection 2, powered by the Unreal technology. Speed treat. How many freaking intros does this game have? We're compiling. You're gonna see that a lot down there now. The game is not gonna look perfect its first playthrough. It has to compile its shaders as you play. The second playthrough always seems to be a lot better than the first. We're just gonna start this game up. Asura's Wrath. Game is very easily done on this emulator. Very easy to emulate, period. You don't need a whole lot of power for this. As a matter of fact, with my system and the rig I'm running, I'm only using about 51% load on my processor and 10% on my GPU. That may change due to once we get into the actual gameplay, but this game has a very long intro. After adding your firmware and installing your games to the actual emulator himself, which this emulator doesn't get updates like normal software does. Requires you to actually go back and install a whole new emulator altogether. As you can see, the shaders are compiling in all at once. So, it looks like crap at first, but the very next time you come back and play the exact same thing, it doesn't have to go through it again. It only does it to one time. I'm gonna go ahead and push the start button. Right off the back, you're gonna see, yeah. I'm gonna cut to the second playthrough. I'm gonna cut right now and then come back later and show you what it looks like after you compile all the shaders. Alright, now I only played like a few minutes of the intro here. Everything that was blacked out is now in full color. This is what the game looks like after the shaders have compiled, and I'm a tad bit better at playing the game now. Oh, it's not exactly the cleanest look. Well, we're not running the MSAA application on this game because it works fine without it. If you're looking for prosthetics of the game to be on par with the PlayStation 3 right now. Even a high-end computer will have trouble doing that right now. Which I have a pretty beefy one myself, and it still doesn't look the cleanest that it could. Still doesn't look the cleanest. There's some screen tearing. And it starts moving really fast, as you can see that line right there. But if you ask me, the game's definitely playable. Most games are definitely playable. Games like Red Dead Redemption, they're pretty much on par with Metal Gear Solid 4. They're being worked on. They're kind of working, but they're not at the best state. MSAA is really working well with those higher end application games like God of War 3, I should say. Very hard game to emulate because it uses the full potential of the PlayStation 3 system. And remember, when you're doing emulators like this and stuff, just because your PC is as strong or stronger than a PlayStation 3 would be, it's still not running what it took the PlayStation, what was in the PlayStation 3 to begin with. The emulator, it solely focuses off the emulator. And they're doing the best they can to try and bring the emulator up on par with the console. It's taken them 8 years, and they've gotten pretty far. But most emulators from beforehand didn't take long at all, like PlayStation 2's emulations didn't take long for them to have it up and running, especially consoles that use read-only memories like the Nintendos of the 80s and 90s, Genesis. Whenever it got onto the CD-ROM type games, that's when it started to get heavy. Sega Saturn is still a hard one to emulate these days, even though that console came out during PlayStation 1's era, but the PlayStation 1 emulator runs perfectly fine. So the game just looked pretty, if you ask me. Shaders have been compiled. This story of this game is fucking weird. I don't understand it at all. But this is how you would do your best right now to play PlayStation 3 games on your PC. Again, you are going to need some sort of an, if you're running an Intel, you're going to need to try and go with like an i7, an i9, i7, i5 might push it, an i5, Core i5 processor, something at least 6th generation and up. And I have a GTX 1080 in here running the graphics, which the graphics alone only got up to 35% load. Right, and but the processor, it got up to about 70 to 80% load under just that game, which is one of the easiest ones to emulate. Very easy to emulate. Persona 5 works great. Doom boots doesn't start up though. It doesn't go in. It says it's playable, but I can't get it to play it. Assassin's Creeds. Again, if you're wanting to play games of this genre of this generation of consoles, I would suggest this one. People are working on it every day. There's a new build comes out, and I don't say try out every build. I normally try out one build every 6 months to see how well it's gotten. So two builds a year, and this one that they just had 3 days ago to the date of this recording of August 10th was their biggest jump so far, adding in the multi-system anti-aliasing. I can't even say that word. To me, this is the biggest jump that they've had. They have screenshots of them showing the higher end games booting up, and God of War is actually in game, but it's at half speed. That's the furthest this is God of War 3. That's the furthest it's ever gotten. I don't know about God of War extensions. It already has the emulators in there as well too. They work just fine. So if you want to play like a PlayStation 1, a 2 game in here, you only need this one emulator. Even though I have several of these emulators up here, you technically only need this one because it will play PlayStation 1 and 2 no problem. You just drag it and drop it just like I showed you the rest. Get your ISO, however you get your ISOs. I don't know where you get them from. Mine are actually from my game disk. You just drag them and drop them into this, and it'll compile them into the list, and it'll, all you do is double click and it fires right up. So you don't need to have a PlayStation 1 emulator or a PlayStation 2 emulator like my dumbass has. But other than that, it's come a long way if you ask me. It's taken 8 years, but it's a very slow process. The reason I say use this one besides the Xbox, because the Xbox emulator, the Xbox 360 emulator, never really gotten full support until just recently with their with the, what build is it? I think it's the CXBX emulator, but I think it's a reloaded version, not this one. Which I do have the reloaded version. That's why it says CR in it. I would use that directly for games that are tied only to the Xbox themselves, like your Halos and Gears of War, and anything that was just straight for Xbox. When we come to this generation of games, I'm going to be, buying the disc at my local GameStop used if I could, or online, ripping them, putting them on here, playing them through this definitely, without having to go through the trouble of trying to find a PlayStation 3 that works with the crap nowadays, because they're so the last generation their consoles were so shoddy. So anyways, I'm gonna say good night and God bless, and thank you for joining us.